It's so rare that we lose a figure active in the game, and that in part explains today's deep sense of shock and profound note of loss. But the sadness prompted by Dean Bailey's passing owed more to the impression he made at the clubs he served and the men he moulded across 30 years in the game. At Essendon, he played 53 times, distinguishing himself for his willingness and nous rather than a burgeoning talent. He graduated development coach at Windy Hill in an era that delivered the all-conquering flag of 2000. At Port Adelaide, he was instrumental in the Power's first wave of success, culminating in the 2004 Premiership. Bailey answered a newspaper ad and won the coaching position at Melbourne. His tumultuous tenure spanned 4 years and was defined in the end by his own words, that he did the right thing for the Melbourne Football Club. He found a home at Adelaide, where his football intellect again proved immense. But in November, Bailey was diagnosed with lung cancer, and this morning he was taken too soon, aged 47, leaving the football world to remember a good and loyal servant.
Dean Bailey passed away at 2 o'clock this morning, with Karen by his side, after a brief but courageous battle with a very aggressive lung cancer.
We're a football club in mourning. Try and be gentle with us for a few days, but we'll certainly be ready for round one. So I hope no one takes it easy on us when we get to the start of the season, but yeah, it's going to be a tough couple of days.
You know, knowing how crook he was and you know what sort of pain and suffering that he and his family were going through, it's certainly a blessing, and you know, we all hope he and his family you know, are in peace now.
He really was a great person, and it's sad to see for the AFL industry to lose someone like Dean Bailey.
Probably one of the kindest humans I've ever come across, and one that always looks out for you as a person.
In short, we've lost a great mate, a wonderful family man, an extraordinary contributor to this great game of ours, all of which at this point, I have to say, seems so desperately unfair.
In the end, he just loved AFL footy. He just wanted people to develop. I think you've already seen the outpouring of messages from players, the impact that he has on people he meets, and he's infectious of his love for the game.
Good bloke, a lot of fun, real character in his own way, very witty and very intelligent, had a style about him.
His courage was just incredible. He just kept fighting, and that's something we can all learn from that.
He was the one. I started my career under him, and I mean, the amount of care that he showed towards me as a young player, and he really, I guess, made me believe that I could play AFL footy.
You never heard a bad word said about him, and yeah, really going to miss him here, and the thoughts with the family, that's for sure.
A great man who has left us far too early. Had a great contribution to the game over 30 years. I've
coached against him, but most importantly, I've coached alongside him, and fantastic friend, great mate. And I'll miss him dearly.
So it's a sombre agenda this Tuesday night to match the overriding mood of the football fraternity. Robbo, these are the hardest days. You think about the grief of a family, and as it spreads out from those that worked with Dean and those who knew him, and we will speak with some of those over the next 20 minutes or so, the profound sense of loss today was unmissable.
Yeah, of course it was. You know, oh, it's a strange beach life. We all know that. But footy does not welcome bad people. They don't welcome people who don't help others. 4 clubs welcomed Dean Bailey to come in their doors. It started with Essendon. We saw the young shots of him. Little ugly hairy bugger he was. He had short legs. He had thick bloody calf muscles. He was an unusual player, but he had a lot of go in him, a lot of guts. And then Essendon and Port Adelaide and Melbourne, where he coached, and back to Adelaide. That's 4 clubs that open the door and say, hey, you can come in here and you can work with our young men. I think that's a real testimony to what football club saw in Dean Bailey, and it's testament to what Dean Bailey was like as a person, a teacher and educator.
So it's a day for tributes and it's a day for storytelling. Tell me something, what did you learn today about Dean Bailey?
What did I learn? I learned that Dean Bailey was a lot funnier than I thought he was. He was behind the scenes at Essendon. He was assistant coach at Port Adelaide. He didn't laugh a lot at Melbourne. It was a very difficult time. He got appointed coach and he knew he had a hell of a journey, a challenge again to lift this club. And more often than not, I think he coached for, off the top of my head, 80-odd games, 22 losses, 22 wins, 59 losses. We were drilling Dean about where's the improvement coming from. But he would always have some sort of witty line. He never got overwhelmed by the pressing nature of his team. I asked Jack Grimes today, and I wrote this today, Jared, as well. No matter when the media was coming at Dean Bailey, he never turned on his players publicly. He never blamed them, ever. He said, "No, I'll take everything," and he rarely lost his temper. Like if you said something, or I wrote something, or anyone wrote something, he wouldn't go hunting you down. And I thought that was a measure of a pretty good bloke.
And he clearly left a stamp on the lives that he moulded along the way. And one of those stories you've told tomorrow, you spent time with Josh Marnie, who we saw briefly there. But there's a much deeper story there.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Josh Marnie got delisted by the Dogs. He was 21, played 30 games. He arrived at Essendon, played 2 years at Essendon. Dean Bailey was at Essendon. Dean Bailey took him to Adelaide. Dean Bailey made him a premiership player. And then Dean Bailey got the coach, and in 2003, Josh Marnie's life, in his words, was going up and down the one spot. He's now a football manager of Melbourne. He was an assistant coach of Melbourne. He's a premiership player. And Josh Marnie just opens his heart a little bit to say thanks to this person who took particular interest in him. All coaches do. All coaches take interest in their young people. There's no doubt about that. But when you actually grab a guy from the scrap heap and turn him into the MCG on the last day of September and say, "Here, young man, you can have a premiership medallion," who do you thank? You thank yourself because you've worked so hard. Then you thank the people who got you there. Dean Bailey made Josh Marnie's life what it is. And he just tells a story and wants everyone to know what a great man Dean Bailey is. And they're the stories that are coming out about Dean Bailey. You asked me, it was a really good question. What did you learn today?
It's the same striking note was the humour, which I was unaware of. I didn't know Dean very well, as my dealings with him were restricted to press conferences at a grim time for his club. But independently, half a dozen people I spoke with, the first thing they said was wickedly dry. Dry. I thought that's a nice memory to have.
These words that were said by Sanderson, Grimes, Trigger, Marnie, Garland, Sheedy, Williams, wit, courage, love, thanks, care, belief, funny. Geez, they're nice words. I know everyone talks nicely about people who departed, but it just seems to me it's like we're talking about Jim Steins. Those words, they just seem to fit Dean Bailey. Sometimes when people pass, you hear something said and you say, "Geez, I don't know if that's quite right." Everything I've heard today sits really comfortably with me, what I knew of Dean Bailey, because talk about press conferences, we occasionally hung around and had talks away from the camera, mate, you know. So it's a terribly sad day for four clubs.
OK, let's go through the phases with those four clubs, beginning at Essendon, where he was a player. He wasn't a player of great renown, but fondly thought of, I'm sure. And we're going to bring Kevin Sheedy into the conversation here as a coach and then as someone who worked by his side. Kevin, welcome again to AFL 360.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Well, just tell us, what sort of player was Dean Bailey, Kevin?
Well, he was a smart player. He's a thinking player, and of all the players that you had at the club, he's a very, very smart guy about humour. His humour was sharp. It was elite. I remember him one day. We were just going through the players at one stage, and we had a comical session. We loved to keep morale very important around the club, and we just had one or two players that were sort of like love looking at themselves in the mirror. And so Dean brought along a frame without nothing in it and introduced the player to the frame. He was elite in humour, obviously, I mean, we talk about players that don't play a lot of games, but neither did Tom Hafer or Alan Jean. And, you know, he had that sort of flair. I thought he took Melbourne to 8.5 wins for 2 years in a row, and I thought he was on the right up slant. And, look, I thought he handled his departure from Melbourne with dignity, particularly, and he handled you know, ringing, saying, look, bad cheese, I got the job, and you didn't, which was good. And this is after I left Essendon, but I thought that it was the right decision for him and also Melbourne.
I found, Kev, when you had a conversation with Dean Bailey, and I want to know if you detected this early when he was at the football club at Essendon, there was a real purity in his conversation when he spoke about footy. It was, okay, there's time to have fun in footy, but there's a lot of time to be serious because he loved the sport and he wanted to get the best out of everyone. Did you detect it when he was 26, 27, when he was still at Essendon, that this guy may be destined for the coaching box?
Look, with his disposal and his vision, he had, for his acute awareness in a game, if he had the ball, we knew we were going to do quite well out of it. The unfortunate part from a point of view, he was at Essendon in a very good time. And we were going to come through to another chance to hopefully have a crack at grand finals in 90 and 93. And for whatever the reason in the end is, you're either in the... I mean, just remember, they only picked 20 in those days. It wasn't 20,000 on the bench. But Dean didn't make it. He was unlucky. But if he had been in the AFL these days, he probably would have been the perfect person to bring on the ground because he could actually change a game. He was smart. He was tough. He was pursuing a career that he loved. And in the end, he came out of the Essendon district in the eastern Ringwood area. And from my point of view, it's just another unlucky player that I actually coached that probably didn't get that chance. But he actually went on. He's a better coach in the end than a player. And you'd have to say that was about Jeans and Hafey, because when you look at Jeans and Hafey's career, they weren't that unlike really Dean Bailey. And I think that if Melbourne had hung in there for a little bit longer, you might have had an exciting coach.
So from what you observed, Kevin, when he was with you at Essendon, it seems he was particularly good with young players and establishing a direction with them. Did you observe that?
No doubt about that. Look, he was a successful coach for us. We didn't like losing him. In the end, Mark Williams was smart enough to take him back to Adelaide. He did go to Glenelg after us at the Bombers at the time. And in the end, along with Damien Hardwick and a young guy called... probably Mark Williams probably got them up for their first ever premiership, and you think about that was a fantastic effort by all of those boys who got there.
Kevin, thanks for your insights. I really appreciate the time.
No worries. Cheers everybody in Melbourne, and we'll be back soon with the Giants.
Kevin Sheedy with us. So from Essendon, Dean Bailey went to Port Adelaide, as you've just heard there, and was part of the successful run under Mark Williams, which brought their club's first premiership. And Mark's with us on AFL 360. Mark, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's a real sad day for everyone involved in footy, and certainly at Port Adelaide with their close friendship with Bales.
What did Dean bring to your coach's box, Mark?
Well, actually, I first come across Karen and Bales and the boys at Glenelg. I actually coached him back in 1993, so I've known him for 21 years. And back in that time, he was a true professional with his footy preparation, and had a great way of involving the team and being a fantastic team player. So when it comes to recruiting a coach, to know someone you've been with and experienced his manner, I was pretty confident he could do a job. And he came. He was really he's a settled, quiet, a person that is calm, and probably helped me a lot with my emotional ways about me. But and then his knowledge of the game was outstanding. He probably, with his footy career, felt a little bit unfulfilled and was always looking to prove that he was good enough, and he could. So he worked massive hours. He was fantastic with the young blokes and doing development work, and then taking over the back line.
He was, first on the track and last to leave. He was always had players in his room. Nothing was too much for him, and our run of top of the ladders without winning finals, he was still really positive about what we could do, and even grand final day was one of the great days of all of us at Port, and we have some fantastic photos with him holding the cup. At
there's one in your office in there, Choco.
Yeah. We have a terrific photo with the boys and holding the cup with all the no grandstand behind us there. So that was.
We've got it on screen now, Choco.
A moment in time. Well, that's terrific. And the other thing was quite interesting was 5 minutes into the game when the communications went down, and I'm going a little bit off at David Hutton, one of my mates, and Dean's very calmly just grabbing my arm and looking around and saying not too much, and just kept us focused on what we were doing.
It's interesting you got onto that. You spoke about what Dean brought to the football club and what he brought to football. What I want you to expand on, if you could, Choco, what he brought for you, because you spoke about, you're a passionate soul, and Dean, as we all, if you ever met Dean Bailey, he's a very, very calm soul. What did that mean for you as a coach, and what did it mean for the club winning the premiership?
Yeah, well, the truth is you're only as good as the people you have in the box, and you have to have a great mix. And we had a fantastic mix of people, and he was certainly one that brought calmness, and he wanted to things explained. He wanted to ask questions to make sure that everyone was on the right track and the same track. And because he was a friend, and because there was great trust. He's a fantastic and very loyal person, fiercely loyal, and I'm sure all the the people, the players that he touched, as far as spending time with them, all the defenders. I know, I told Matty Thomas today and Toy Chaplin, and I think at Richmond we have 10 people that are involved with Port Adelaide or Melbourne. The other Mark Williams and Ricky Pettard as well, and everyone's been just loved Bales. Smiled about him, his passion, but certainly his humour and his little one-liners that could get everyone when everyone was down. He could get you up. And one of the things I suppose, and I'm not sure if anyone's highlighted it as well, but anyone that's ever seen him draw a football oval, he was the absolute best. He'd get a texture out and get his fingers ready, and he honestly posed in front of everyone about how well he could draw an oval on the whiteboard. And it was always 100% perfect. And the rest of us would get up there with our bloody our textures, but nowhere near what he could do. So that was his number one thing what he brought to
a great memory, mate.
Lovely image. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Yeah, look, and obviously, great big condolences to the family and to everyone that's close to him, and we certainly will all miss him. And luckily we got those great memories, and that was the last thing I sent to him, was that photo again, saying, remember the great times. So we certainly will with him, and he'll be part of Port Adelaide's history forever. Thank you.
Will. Thanks a lot, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Well done, Choco. It's a great photo, isn't it?
That's the image.
He's a very touchy person, Mark Williams. He's got his arm around. That's arm around in the box when he was just patting him on the back. They're wonderful images.
The Melbourne years got the job by responding to the newspaper ad, and it came from nowhere, came from the back of the queue, and through the process convinced the panel that he was the right man in what he'd brought, the accumulated football knowledge that he had and the understanding of the game, which seemed to make such an impression.
Yeah, that's really shone through today. I spoke before about the purity of football conversation with Dean Bailey. That's a centre square that he's drawing for. Yep. I tell you what, if they were drawing us an oval, then Jared, that would have been a great image. He loved the game, and what he loved doing, like all people who coach, they love trying to get the best out of young people and trying to get young people to understand why they're doing stuff and why they're doing. We're teaching them to do that, so it helps that, and that. He had this wonderful understanding of what has to be done. Now, he might not have had the cattle at Melbourne, but he took some really good ideas. I wrote today that, was he a failure? 22 wins, 59 losses. The numbers would suggest that, but the graph was going northwards. he had a really bad period there in 2011 before he got sacked. But the young fellas talking today, I went down to Melbourne today, and Jack Tengrove spoke and Jack Grimes spoke. I got the feeling I was at the press conference when he got sacked and Dean spoke, and he spoke with his...
And that was the moment that he spoke to tanking. He didn't speak about tanking, but he spoke to it.
He said, I did what I was asked to do.
And did the right thing by the Melbourne Football Club.
He always would. And I know the 16 weeks really hurt him. I know that he wasn't happy with all parties involved. And the stress must be overwhelming. Now, I was thinking this, Jared, because I got a phone call on Sunday saying that Dean Bailey had hours to live. And I was sitting here last night listening to Paul Roos and Mark Thompson talk about the stress of coaching, and I was thinking, I was listening, but I was drifting off. I was thinking about Dean Bailey and the stress of the last 2 years in his life. And you just can't help think that the stresses of AFL football, has it contributed, not contributed, it's, you know, to his ill health? We don't know. But it came to my mind when Choco spoke about, was Mark Williams today at the press conference outside Richmond, and he said, you know, it's a blessing because he's gone. Because it must be so hard to watch your partner or your family member waste away to cancer. It must be just an horrific situation.
Once he was sacked by Melbourne, he still had plenty to give, and that was well recognised. And he found a home at the Adelaide Crows, where he made an impression in a short period of time, which you've really seen borne out right through today. And obviously that's where the announcement came from. The Chief Executive of the Adelaide Crows, Stephen Trigg, is with us on AFL 360. Stephen, thank you for your time.
Jared, a pleasure. Good day to you and Robbo.
How acute is the sense of loss within your football club today?
It's a very, very sad day. We've had, to some extent, a little bit of time as senior management to get our heads around it, having seen the awful deterioration in recent days, recent weeks. Probably for most of our players, it was still, for all of that, Jared, incredibly abrupt today. So it's a very sad place just at the moment, and we've put all the support mechanisms we can around them and the coaches to make sure that their grief is well managed, as well managed as it can be. But no, it's a really tough day because I tuned into the last couple of minutes of your discussion there, and you guys are nailing it about the quality of the fella, the experience, the stresses of the role. They're all very pertinent things to say, but from our club's perspective today, it's very much a hit between the eyes, and our primary focus at the moment is supporting our players and our coaches and indeed the family.
It's funny, Steve, we were talking before about, clubs, Sydney got their recruiting policy. I won't repeat the name, but we all know what it is. Football clubs don't recruit the same people. 4 clubs took in Dean Bailey. The Adelaide Crows took in Dean Bailey after a very, very difficult period at the Melbourne Football Club. But you must have recognised and identified the talent that Dean Bailey had, so you can open the doors and say, come in here, Mr. Bailey, we want you to help our young people.
That's absolutely correct, Robbo. I mean, we and I personally knew him to be of the highest character and the highest calibre in terms of his football. And I think it was your term a moment ago, to sit and talk to him, it's just a pure football discussion. It's a wonderful thing, and I've seen vindicated our decision a couple of years ago to take him on and put him alongside a rookie coach. Now, whether you like that model or not, I was, and our board was convinced that was the right thing to do at the time. And despite missing him for a period last year, it was undoubtedly the right thing to do, because if you watch and listen to him with players, they lap it up. He loved providing and mentoring and offering knowledge and insights, and I promise you the players lapped it up. They just love it. They love a discussion with him, a fireside chat, and it's very, very good for our players, very good for our coaches, and that's what we saw in him, and Robbo, that's what we got.
Stephen, in these moments it can seem that everything must go on, can seem particularly glib, but I take it that Dean sort of made provisions to make sure that the Adelaide world didn't stop once this happened.
Yeah, that's right, Jared. We We canned a couple of public things that were on today. That was it just didn't seem appropriate, and frankly, nobody felt like it. So beyond that, Dean had in the last couple of discussions I had with him personally, I know this to be the case with our chairman Rob Chapman and coach, is really strong. I mean, he's a tough bugger as well as all the appropriate things you guys have been saying of him. He's a tough bugger as well in the sense that he was saying, you know, I'm still up for the fight here, but whatever happens, you know, life goes on. Keep pumping in the education, keep pumping in the preparation. And he often said this to me in the last few weeks, is that the list is in really great shape. Don't underestimate, you've got a terrific young coach, and look after them and support them, and life goes on. So, look, he was putting that to us, and so as a result, Jared, today, the inevitable question comes about tribute years and all that routine. And we're steering away from that. Our view is that on the back of Dean's own position on all this, it's our responsibility, we believe, to pick up the rope, to prepare like he taught us to prepare, to play like he taught us to play, to enjoy footy like he taught us to enjoy, and all with that terrific sense of humour that you guys have spoken about.
Stephen, we appreciate your time at the end of a long and testing day, I'm sure.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
Stephen Trigg from the Adelaide Crows. One other image?
This, it's not my favourite, but this made me a bit emotional when I first saw it. It's a photo of Brett and Sanderson, the coaching group, shaving their heads. You know what I thought of? I thought of Dean Bailey, and I thought of Jim Steins, and I thought of Sean White. All these guys around about the same age have been taken by cancer, and there's not much you can do in life. We'll help you, we'll do whatever you can. But what's become really popular is we'll shave your head and we'll just be with you.
Solidarity.
Yeah, we'll just... And this shot of all the boys at Adelaide, I thought to myself, good on you boys. Just takes nothing, but it probably meant a lot to Dean Bailey. It's a good shot.
It is. So Dean Bailey, deeply missed but well remembered tonight by those whose lives he touched and shared in his journey through football. He was a Collingwood favourite son with a name steeped in the carrying bush, a premiership player himself, but the journey finished in ignominy with Collingwood, and he's about to turn for real into a giant. Heath Shaw, his football journey, he'll be with us tomorrow night on AFL 360. So from a former Magpie to a current one, the Players Association has launched the season tonight. We head to South Yarra to that function now, and the President, Luke Ball. Luke, welcome aboard. Try again, Luke. Have you got us?
You can hear us, Luke. If not, well, he's gone. What do you think of his shirt?
Oh, Robbo, you can't have a cheap shot with a man having no right of reply.
You know what I really wanted to know? I really wanted to know how the AFL Players Association spoke about Dean Bailey today. Mm-hmm. You know, there'll be representatives there from Melbourne, and the AFL Players Association would have been terrific in their support for Adelaide and the Bailey family tonight. And that's part of what was described as players, young men who have a relationship with a man who's only 47 who dies, and that's confronting. That's confronting for everybody. And the welfare mechanisms put in place by the Crows, and obviously the Players Association has a role to play there to help everybody through, whatever everybody's personal needs are at a time like this. Well, this is unexpected, so can I ask you some questions? Yep. Do you think Nathan Buckley should have got 2 years or not? Yes. Yep, I do. Because all of Collingwood's planning is around what's to come. We spoke about this last night. Sometimes it's a reward, extending a contract. Sometimes it's to see through. Just in light of the comments by Tony Shaw today, it was a big talking point here in Melbourne, everyone. That Tony Shaw said that Buckley should have only got the 1 year, and we revealed last night that Guy McKenna only got the 1 year extension, which will take him to 5. So there's been a bit of a talking point here. And this is not PR at Collingwood. I think if you are going to empower is a better word. If you're going to empower a coach
to make the decisions, particularly on his senior group, and then to, what have they got, 6 first-round draft picks inside 22 across 2 years. Well, the dividends come in 15 and 16. So if you set that course, you have to sail that course to the end of 16. And that's why the McKenna extension makes perfect sense, is because the sample has to be 5 years. So as long as you're convinced that he hasn't derailed and he hasn't made poor decisions and he hasn't deviated from the plan where they started.
Club's been strong through some criticism outside.
Yep. The judgment comes next year. The Suns must improve again, and on their graph you would expect that they would. But real judgment starts the year after. If you chop and change right at the moment where you're about to get delivery and either pare it back to square one or deviate wildly, then you'll never actually fulfil the plan. You'll always be going back. No, we're sick of that. We're sick of that.
Next question. Next question. This is fun. I've never been in this position. Question without notice. If you had the opportunity to sit before a SADA and they asked you, you can say anything you like to us, what would you say?
As a journalist?
Whatever way you want to be. You can be Gerard Whaley, you can be a journalist, you can be any way you like. SADA's invited you to sit down and talk to them. What would you say?
My first question would be, what was the status of AOD 9604?
We still don't know.
No, and that they have redacted that in their own report. So they know what the answer is.
Second question.
They protected themselves from it. Was the provision of the interim report a mistake? Or should the identities of the players have been protected to stay in line with the NAD scheme, the legislative power that they operate under?
Third question. Why didn't you compel Stephen Dank to talk?
Yep.
Would you like to do that?
Yes, very much so. I think we regularly put in a request to do that sort of thing.
We all do, but no one gets any answers. I just thought I'd ask you some questions.
Have you got one more?
You're starting to like this.
Well, you can soak up one more and then we'll bring our players
question. I will soak up one more question. Do you think Mick Malthouse will get a contract extension or he will only coach 3 years at Carlton? Or does it really depend on the next
it depends what happens
30 games,
next.
40 games?
Yeah, it depends what happens next, I reckon. That is a very good question. I think we do have Luke Ball now. Luke, welcome aboard.
You've got me. G'day, Robbo. G'day, Jerry.
Sorry, Bally, we've run out of time. It's been fantastic to talk to you.
I just had to ask the DJ to turn the music down. Sorry.
It has been a day of mourning across the football fraternity. You're the president of the Players Association. Just the player reaction's probably not the right word. The sentiment towards Dean Bailey and his family at this time?
Yeah, we just had our AGM downstairs before, and it was certainly the first thing mentioned there amongst the players, and just shock, I think. You know, I was lucky enough to meet Dean a couple of times, and he just seemed like a really, easy person to talk to, and to be taken away at 47 is just, it's just too young, obviously, and I guess on behalf of the players, the deepest condolences and sadness to his young family. It's just, it is a really sad day for footy.
You've had really urgent times at the Players Association, big policy matters in recent times, free agency, collective bargaining. As this year dawns, is this more a period of consolidation, Luke, than urgent policy making?
Oh, I think we hope so, Jared. Yeah, I mean, it's well publicised at the moment. The review on the CBA and in particular the whole, economics of footy and equalisation and all those sort of things. But we think that that those things are going a lot more smoothly than perhaps they were a couple of years ago when the CBA was negotiations were taking place. So I think you're right. I think certainly everyone's looking forward to the bounce of the ball on Friday night, and hopefully we can, as you said, have more of a year of consolidation where the focus is largely around what's happening on the field and not off it.
Paulie, you're a Warrior footballer. Do you think about anything beyond the first game this year? Do you think about next year at all, being out of contract at the end of this year?
No, certainly not, Robbo. I mean, I'm 30 in May, so I think good wisdom. I think when you sort of hit that age, is to treat every year like it's last and every game like it's your last. So that's certainly what I'll be doing. I'm really enjoying it. I've had a good pre-season. Coming off last year where I was interrupted, off the back of my knee. So really looking forward to the, as I said, the bounce of the ball on Friday night, and really going from there.
That's the key. If you're a 30 and you missed any part of pre-season, you're playing catch-up for 12 weeks. If you can get through pre-season and you're 30, you think, hang on, I think I'm in for a pretty good year here.
Yeah, exactly. And I try to use the disappointment of missing a year with my knee as a spur, really, to freshen up other areas, I guess, and hopefully add that year to the other end of my career. So, yeah, as I said, I had a pretty good pre-season, and you're spot on. The game is competitive as it is now. If you don't have that, then you are playing catch-up. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to Friday night. But I know, just talking to a lot of the other guys here, they really are as well. So, under no illusions about how hard it is these days, and I think that's the beauty of footy. I've heard you guys talking in the last couple of nights about whilst the top three might be a little bit above the rest, it's a pretty even group underneath those, and we're certainly doing our best to catch those top teams.
It's an exciting prospect. Luke, appreciate the chance to chat.
Good on you. Thanks, guys.
Not quite as long as we'd hoped for, but that can happen.
We really like your Asada answers.
Our players in next. That's Scott Leagues, actually, the questions without notice. Bob Murphy and Jordan Lewis with us. We'll talk the urgent matters for the modern player.
To my boys, couldn't be prouder. The resilience, the courage, how much you stood up from last year. There was so much character. Well done, boys. Fantastic effort.
Images freshly imprinted on our minds from the season launch, and also tonight with the grand final recall coming up. Jordan Lewis, we better not keep you too long. You'll surely indulge in that, won't you?
Tell him. Absolutely. I was just showing Robbo, as soon as that came on, I had goosebumps. It's just, I can't wait to get home and watch it.
All right, we'll spend a little bit of time there. Bob Murphy, you've been busy resigning tonight?
Yep, yeah, it was end of a long stint at the association, but yeah, it was a good night.
What was the worth in serving on the Players Association over a period of time for you?
I think to get a greater understanding of the whole industry, the calibre of people at the Players Association, I was sort of thrust into it pretty quickly. Brendan Gale sort of wanted to get me on pretty quick, and I was really young. The calibre of people you're exposed to, and then the guys from other clubs, some really impressive people talking of subjects that I would never have been exposed to. So I've got a lot to be thankful for, and thoroughly enjoyed my time.
And hand over to the next brigade coming through. I suppose the game is theirs.
Yeah, that's right. So I implore them to get involved and to certainly look after the past players even more so in the next few years.
You sat here next to Surly last year when they won it, when they lost it, and the devastation. You're sitting there again, and this guy's telling us he's got goosebumps. Getting jealous?
You said before that it's your favourite show of the year. It's probably my least favourite show of the year.
And I'm not rubbing
with all. But
I saw you look at him then, and I'm thinking, wonder what you were thinking.
It's hard. Yeah, it's really, and I think it gets worse each year. The older you get, you sort of see it, slipping away a little bit. Incredibly jealous, but no more deserving team than they were the best team of the year, and what they went through the year before. Full credit to them.
I don't watch them if we're not in it. I don't watch it.
Yeah.
You can't as a player. It's just, it hurts so much. Even if you don't make the grand final and you see another team celebrating, it does hurt.
Okay, we wanted to test what you remember from the day. So the Peter Dixon film that we saw the other night, beginning with the pre-game, just little slivers of what was going on behind closed doors.
We've got ourselves into that position now where we've got a chance. We've had a lot of lessons, suffering, which we've had to endure last year. Suffering really is the pathway to success. That's what we've had to go through.
That's the ultimate challenge today. There is no magic, there's only action, and unrelenting action. Head straight along into the fear and the anxiety and strap it on.
Till man, we have to sacrifice for one another, and we have to go and give everything we've got.
Can you remember that, Jordan?
I can now.
Yeah.
It is very much a blur the whole week. I remember coming into grand final this week, specifically telling myself to try and remember everything that happens, whether it be the parade, the game, the halftime speech, the pre-game speech. Get it?
No, it's been annoying me for 20 minutes.
I'll tell you a thing about flies in a minute. Watching that, I think, it was all about just doing the simple things, and I suppose that was my memory of the pre-game speech. No heroes. Go out there and 4 quarters. The stock standard.
But it's emotional. I mean, Ross Lyon's line. There's no magic. It's only action. I find that we and the outside say we need Buddy to this, we need Hodgie to play a superhuman game, we need this. Well, in fact, we don't need that.
No.
When he was banging on the wall, he was saying, was it for each other?
Yeah.
For a man or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's funny. The grand final, more so than probably any other match that we had that year, we had guys, our better players, playing sacrificial roles for the whole time. And that's a hard thing to ask those players to do on grand final day when they want to perform.
Clarkson spoke specifically about suffering, and that's obviously related to what happened the year before. And this is the journey. People will say, no, we never speak about it, we don't speak about it, but it's there and it's to be used at certain times. When was it used for Hawthorn?
I don't think in any specific game. It was definitely used post grand final 2012 in preparing ourselves for the 2013 season. We did try and use that experience as motivation, but come the season proper, it was all about your opponent, what we wanted to do, what they were trying to do, and I don't think it got mentioned all year, to be honest, and I don't even think it got mentioned on grand final day, but every player who was there on the ground that day knew what we'd been through.
Then 3/4 time, and just have a listen and see if any of this triggers in your mind.
Siren, it's going to be 10 points at the final change.
This is a tough grand final. This is where you've got to keep persevering and grinding. This is what Equity Cup's all about. Boys, they don't want it like we do.
Tough, perseverance, grinding. They don't want it like we do. So in those moments, that obviously the journey there is very real.
Yeah, and I think we've been in that position a few times that year, and against multiple oppositions, and we managed to get over the line. So I think maybe you draw back on that a little bit subconsciously, but I still remember the halftime speech which Hodgie gave us when we were out on the ground, and he basically said, I want them to kick 2 or 3 goals to really kick us back into gear, and it actually happened. So we're like, Hodgie, maybe you shouldn't have said that. But we knew there was probably 25 to 30 minutes left of football, and we didn't want to experience that same pain that we had the year before.
Just very quickly, my favourite line is when Hodge goes mad at Isaac Smith for carrying on after he kicked the goal.
For celebrating a goal.
He's celebrating a goal. We're only 14 points up halfway through the last quarter. What are you doing? The footage of Hodges,
I loved it.
Oh.
If you kick a goal like that in a time when it was, when it was needed.
It was a huge goal in the game.
I think you're entitled to celebrate like he did it.
But Hodgie was, he's always doing this.
Are there words from days, from games that do live in the mind, eternal?
They do. Often they're the lighter moments that kind of stick in your brain, because a lot of them become, there's only so many times the same message, those messages, they're grand final day, but they're they're messages that are being spoken about at country footy every weekend. You know, they're the same ones. Rocket is an eccentric of the game, really, and he had some great lighter sort of moments that probably couldn't be shared at this time slot. But and then there's some more sort of tender moments of where guys lay themselves bare, and that's why these videos are such a great insight, because you get to see those moments where guys like Luke Hodge, who are such brave sort of beasts of the game, lay themselves bare. And
Cyril lays himself bare in this about the disappointment of last year and how it drove him all the way through to this game.
And it's funny, as players, you don't have conversations with teammates to that level. So that's why I can't wait to get home and to see those players like Cyril, talk openly and emotionally about it.
That's still the disconnect with footy, I think, between the public footy, what you see on the ground, what we see in the media of guys with the armour on, often inside the footy clubs. You talked about Dean Bailey before. Inside the clubs, the armour's taken off and guys are laid bare a lot more.
So from the grand final recall tonight, one of those who speaks is Lance Franklin, who's obviously no longer part of it. This is a little insight.
It was an emotional time for me, for all the boys that have been through a big couple of years. And to be out there amongst your best mates, you played a lot of football with over a long period of time with Ruffy and Jordan Lewis, the guys that I've been drafted with. Something that I'll never forget personally. It was, it was an unbelievable experience, and to have your family, your friends, your partners, people that mean the world to you, and the football club was something that I'll look back on when I finish my career and love it.
So they're bonds that will last beyond the here and the now, because he's an opponent now, and wherever the journey takes you both from here.
Yeah, I think it was probably more emotional for him because he knew that was probably the end of his time at Hawthorn. So to go out in that way, was really special for him. And I suppose after the grand final and after we heard of his decision, you realised how special that moment was as a group of players who got drafted in 2004 and were able to share some success together.
9 years later. It's not an easy game to play, Bob.
That's the grand final recall tonight. Two quick ones, because we are up against it here. I just want to ask Jordan about the bump
You
first.
have to quick ones.
Yep. So you laid a bump on the weekend, and this is the classic grey area of the game, and we all watch
What did you do?
to see how this is going to be. Now, that's just a collision for me, but when you bowl a bloke over...
You're going for the ball then, weren't you? You've been dirtier than that.
Does that stick in your mind? You're all right,
I don't think so. I think if you second guess yourself, that's when you get into trouble. It's part of the game. It's a contact game. Bumps like that happen all the time. It's just unfortunate that he had some blood that came out of his scone, and
there's nothing in that. As I said, you've done worse than that, haven't
you know a bloke who's cut a few guys when he calls another man's head a scone? I would never call another man's head a scone.
I was going, no, I'm not asking. Season launch tomorrow night. Is that true?
Yes.
Peter Gordon quoting Breaking Bad, "The Bulldogs are not in danger, we are the danger."
Right. He's got a catchy few lines,
He
doesn't
does.
he, Peter? So after last year's, I'm prepared.
It's time to stop caring. It's time for the. You know that we've been
caring.
Not caring, saying, we're the non-performing team. You're coming. We know you are. You're building confidence. I think it's fantastic that the Dogs come out and say, "Hey, we're not going to beat the world, but I tell you what, we're going to die trying."
I agree totally with you, Robbo.
Well done.
Thanks, mate.
Tom Liberatore, 16 1/4, didn't go astray either on Friday afternoon.
I don't know if you've noticed, he's a good player. He's really good. I think he'll sneak into the 22 this year.
A few Brownlow tips for him. I saw.
Is it your tip? No, Gaz, mate. I'll go.
Safe bet.
I want him to win 3 though.
Yeah.
I want him to go down in history as a 3-timer. Do you know? I asked Bob last year. I said, "Geez, he's going to be a gun," and Bob said, "Nah, he's already a gun." How do you rate Tom Liberatore?
Oh, he's certainly a player that we watch when we come up against them. I don't watch a hell of a lot of football, so you don't see that consistency in their game, but certainly his stats definitely back up that he's already
a gun.
footballer.
Yeah, he's a super player.
I'm sure you've set the IQ, but we'll let you go. Get home to see the grand final recall. Jordan Lewis, great to have you with us. Bob, see you next week.
See you later, Jude.
Okay, so the Hawthorn fans, this is a treat tonight as the Hawks players and the hierarchy relive a day that will live in brown and gold history.
Was going straight through the middle and then carried on like a pork chop.
His dance through the middle of the ground, he got the crowd going a bit, as well as our coaching box.
He was running around celebrating, trying to high-five everyone, and the defenders got pretty angry at him at that stage, considering there's still 15 minutes to go in the last quarter.
30 years in football, and it became clear today what an impression Dean Bailey made. 4 football clubs, as a player, as a coach, as a mentor, and as a teacher. Gone at 47. If that doesn't give you a sense of mortality, I don't know what would. Tomorrow night, Robbo, Wednesday night, Mark McClure will make his first appearance at the desk for the year. Heath Shaw, who should be a good chat.
I'm really looking forward to talking to Heath Shaw.
And a special guest, as you know we like to do this, and stay with whatever the events are. David Coulthard is going to come in.
The Formula 1 driver.
2-time winner at Albert Park in the Australian Grand Prix, BBC commentator. I just thought he would appeal to you.
I think he will. I might do a bit of research and hit him with some interesting questions tomorrow night.
The life of an F1 driver?
I think he married a supermodel, didn't he? I might ask him about that.
We can find that out. That's tomorrow night. Next on Fox Footy, the grand final recall.
This has been a Fox Footy production for Fox Sports.